Checking in with Anthony and Glenn is brought to you by HD Supply.
It's checking in with Anthony and Glenn, teaching you to be the hotelier that you wanna be. It's checking in with Anthony and Glenn.
Welcome back to Checking In with Anthony and Glenn. I'm Glenn.
I'm Anthony.
Hey, thanks for paying attention and podcasting with me today, Anthony.
You're welcome. As you were just saying, I'm Glenn. I was like 10 feet away. Go, oh yeah, that's right. I'm Anthony.
Yeah. All right. So we're coming at you, live on tape from the Garden City Hotel here on Long Island. We're recording a series of shows here, thanks to the generosity of the good folks over here. And we thought it might be a lot of fun to have on the general manager, and that's Jay Grady Collin of the Garden City Hotel. How are you, sir?
Good. Thank you, guys. Pleasure having you here. Good to be here.
I got to open up. I'm a little bit nervous because the last interaction I had with a hotelier named Grady didn't go so well. He kept saying that I needed to correct the problems in my family and chop them up with an axe. And I saw these two little twin
What the
girls
hell are
in
you
a
talking
hallway.
about?
Shining references.
Oh.
You never saw that?
No, I don't watch scary movies.
Oh, boy. I'm going to get that now.
I don't watch scary movies.
No, what happened was Jack Nicholson's character met Grady, who was the caretaker of the property, who was kind of the impetus for that. So I'm hoping at the end of this I don't wind up frozen in a maze.
I just want to thank you for not going to the Sanford and Son reference.
I was just going to say, I was just about to do that.
I thought that was
I was like, the only Grady I knew was Sanford and Son. You just literally
I don't
took
know
it.
any Grady's.
No, you're actually the first Grady I've ever met in real
I have
life.
to correct that because I just moved to a home in Jersey at the shore,
right.
And I'm out walking my dog, and I meet a lady who says, "What's your dog's name?" And I
Grady.
said, "My dog's name is Boss." "What's your dog's name?" "Grady." And as she tells me that, her dog proceeds to relieve himself on my driveway. So I thought, welcome to the neighborhood, Grady.
So just curiosity, where's the name come from?
My father picked the name. Apparently there was an obscure baseball player, and he was impressed with the name. It's actually my middle name.
Right.
My first name's Jonathan, but my parents wanted me to live a confusing life. But it worked out in class because I could always say, "I thought you were calling Grady. I'm Jonathan."
Right. I like it that it's like J. Grady Collin. I always thought that was so impressive where you had that first initial before getting into the name. It sounds like you're from a wealthy family that way.
I wish I was. Yeah. I probably wouldn't be here with you two if that was the case. Or we'd be sitting in my hotel. Right. Rather than being the steward of it.
Well, in a lot of ways, this is your hotel. I understand that you pretty much live on site here during the week.
I do. This week marks 6 years here, and my family and I moved in 6 years ago on Labor Day, and we were followed by being greeted by Hurricane Sandy. That was fun. We lost power for about 10 weeks.
Wow.
The cupola of the building almost blew off.
Oh, my
we lost
gosh.
40 trees on property. The parking lot was flooded, but we became sort of a shelter for the community and brought everyone in to use our facilities, give them some comfort, and feed them when we could.
Well, welcome aboard.
Yeah. So that's island life.
I always said there's one thing I wouldn't do as a hotel general manager, and that was to live on property. How do you shut it off? How do you not walk through the front door when you're going to your residence and not be critical of your environment if you see something that's going wrong?
Well, coming from the business, you never shut it off. You said to me when you walked in the door, as soon as you walked in, you turned on your hotel eye and you started noticing things. But I think it's a great benefit for the hotel to be here in the evening and be here in my off time because you can play the role of advocate of the customer and look at it from a different set of eyes.
I just like it that Anthony claims he shuts off ever. The only time you shut off is when you're at a poker table in Atlantic City.
I will tell. Well, I was actually there the other day, and I have a funny story, but I'll leave that for later. But no, I can't do it. I physically, mentally can't do it. I cannot. I would not be able to function. I'm not wired that way. When I am off, I am off, and I don't want to know anything. That's why I really think it's important to have a great assistant general manager and a great team because I don't want to know anything. I mean, when I was at the Plaza Hotel, they were calling me where's the pencil? I was so tired of that. I was like, I won't work weekends, and I don't want phone calls at home unless it's an absolute emergency, like Sandy's coming through the front door. But I didn't work weekends for 20 years. When I'm in, I'm all in. And when I'm out, I try to be all out. And so I'm always fascinated by that. I mean, doesn't that just get on your nerves?
Rarely, there's a trade-off. There's a little bit of removed privacy once in a while because, the staff wants to build a relationship with the GM. So if they see you off duty and it's an opportunity for them to chit-chat with you, and you might not be in the mood for some FaceTime, but there's positives and negatives to everything. I think it made a big difference in repositioning the hotel in those first few years where I was here every day for about 2.5, 3 years until I said, you know what, I need an escape. So we found a home outside and we get away on the weekends.
Excellent. I think this we should probably root everybody in what's going on with this conversation with the hotel and understanding. You just talked about transforming the hotel. Garden City Hotel is an icon here on Long Island. It's kind of where everybody got married. All of the glitterati would show up. All of that kind of great stuff. But over time, it kind of faded away from its glory
like many
days.
Iconic American hotels,
and that's just
hills and valleys in their
right.
in its history.
You came on 6 years ago. You inherited a property that was, I'll say, dire condition. I don't know if it actually was, but I walk in today. I've been here a couple of years. I came here a couple of years ago, and I've seen the progress. But you walk in today, and it's hard to believe that it's the same place as it was when you took the reins of the property.
Well, it's an icon. I'm from New Jersey.
Right.
Lived there, worked in New York for 26 years, spent a year in Boston. I got a call to come down and see what this was all about. And, boy, I fell in love with it. I had always heard about it, but I had never been to Long Island. But all my friends and colleagues in the city who came from Long Island always talked about the Garden City Hotel.
Well, to be fair, us Long Islanders try never to go to New Jersey, so we've kind of got an equal feeling here.
Well, let me just say thank you. We appreciate that. We don't want to dilute things.
Yeah. And it's interesting because there's very few hotels in the 5 boroughs. If you're a New York City general manager, you're a New York City general manager.
Right.
You start, now I'm a general manager of a hotel maybe near the airport in Queens. Like, oh, all right. What's going on with your career? And then maybe you're a general manager out in Long Island. Oh, okay. Why can't you handle New York? Which is completely inappropriate and I don't believe in that.
Right.
But the one hotel outside of Manhattan that if you're the general manager of, and you're like, well, I'm general manager of Garden City Hotel. Whoa.
Right.
Well, excuse me. And it's always been that hotel. For a while it wasn't. It was like the Algonquin. It was the hotel, then it wasn't the hotel. Or the Plaza, it was the hotel, then it wasn't. Or the Waldorf. It's like I think hotels are a lot like people. We have our good years and our bad years.
True. And it's an interesting thing when I started here and I would meet people in the community, they would welcome me to the Garden City Hotel. They made it theirs. It's an icon for them. And they would say to me, the Garden City Hotel is our plaza, our Pierre Hotel.
Yeah,
and that's an interesting dynamic.
We just said you have and I'm going to have you plug a little bit for the new chef you have and the new restaurant you have. And the reason being is because the person that you brought in, I'll let you announce it, the person you brought in, the chef and the owner of this restaurant, if he's in L.A., if he's in California, if he's even in Chicago or Vegas, it's like, okay, he's here. All right, maybe we'll like his restaurant, maybe we won't like his restaurant. But when someone of that caliber comes to the Garden City Hotel, the community must be saying, oh, my God, we got this guy in our neighborhood?
Exactly.
Who is this guy?
This guy is the renowned American chef and innovator and entrepreneur, David Burke. Also a Jersey guy, ironically.
Right. So David Burke has a restaurant in a hotel on Long Island at Garden City. That's a big deal. And not too many hotels outside of those big cities, those A-list cities, could really attract someone like him.
Do you have his angry lobster dish here is what I really
Oh, yes. We have that angry lobster. And that angry oil we can put on other things and make them angry.
So you know what? If you will allow me to, Glenn, and hijack...
I like how you're asking me permission. When
I
you
think
just
it's going
take
to
over all
happen
the time.
anyway.
It is. At least he's trying to be polite.
Yeah. And I'm going to hijack the conversation for just a minute.
Right, okay.
Because I'm going to do something that is a little bit different. Would you mind if we play the word association game?
Doctor, I would love to.
Okay. I'll say a word. You say the first thing that comes out of your mouth. Owner of hotels.
Entrepreneur.
I'm going to say it again. Owners of hotels.
I'll say it. Thorn in my side.
And I'm saying to myself, Grady, self-preservation. Well, in reality, I'm blessed because the owner here has given me great autonomy, great trust, and he loves this hotel. He comes in all the time, grabs me and says, I can't believe I own the Garden City Hotel.
Well,
So this is a fantastic experience, but many times it's meddler.
Well, you're very fortunate that the gentleman about 8 years ago named Alan Rosenberg didn't buy this hotel because you've been screwed, bro.
I wouldn't be here,
All right. Well,
probably.
We'll edit Mark at 9:48.
No, I can say, listen. He owned the Allegra Hotel,
Right.
And he completely screwed that hotel up. But that's a whole different story. And I have many hours with him. I tried to buy that hotel, and that is a hotel like a girl in ninth grade that got away. I will never rest until I own that hotel.
That's South Shore of Long
I have
Island,
I have very strong feelings about that hotel and the gentleman that owned that hotel and started. On one hand, he did a great job in getting it done, and
Right.
it showed that he made money. And then the other time, he was an owner that got in his own way.
I think we're going to stage
Don't
a
disagree.
takeover. Yeah.
So anyway,
We'll
now
be
to-
right back, folks. We're going to get the Allegria Hotel right now.
Speaking of be right back, we actually should be right back. We need to take a commercial break, and we're going to be right back after this.
What's important to me is relationships. And HD Supply has had a relationship with me for many years. Anytime I worked at a hotel, was general manager, developer, whatever I was doing, I call HD Supply, and they have over 100,000 products. Anytime I need anything, whether it be logo items, whether it be guest room supplies, whatever it is, they're there. I need an oven or I need a bathrobe, they're there. They have over 100 certified master hotel supply professionals to help you. Real people that have worked in hotels so they can help you and really understand what you're going through. They have the tools, the technology, and the specialized service. And I truly believe in them. First time I spoke to HD Supply, I said, we have 0 listeners by advertising for us. And said, well, usually we need to know how many listeners you have. And what I said is, we may have 1 or we may have 1 million. We don't know. Give us a shot. They did that. That's loyalty. So whether they're supplying your hotel or whether they're being a loyal friend after all these years, they're the company that I go to bat with.
All right, welcome back. To continue, guys. Sorry, I didn't mean to break us up, but we got to pay for the show somehow.
So I'm not going to let you off the hook.
Let's go.
Because independent-minded general managers that don't work for corporations their whole career run into owners that get in the way and make their life miserable. And I can't imagine you got through, what, a 20-year, 25-year career?
33.
33. I've been in 33 myself.
I'm a year older than you.
I'm 53. You're 54?
Yep.
Well, you look better than I do. And you have a lot
True.
more
I
hair
don't
than
disagree
do.
there. This is going well.
And you're not in your ties perfect, by the way. But you don't get through 33 years without having those moments with owners. So give me an example, without mentioning names, hotels, whatever, where you really questioned you wanting to be in this industry, you wanting to be in the job that you were in, and how you overcame that moment where you wanted to maybe walk away from a hotel because of the owner, or you wanted to strangle the owner, or you felt the owner was being unfair. And the reason that's important is because young people coming up in this industry face those challenges. And somehow you and I overcame those challenges to land on our feet. But a lot of people, and we know, in our industry don't.
Well, I think that has a lot to do with the fact that there's sometimes a lack of humility by general managers, and they confuse the roles. You know, whereas I'm the steward of this business, but I don't own this hotel, so I have to understand and be aligned with the desires of the owner, whereas the owner may not be as adept in how to operate or position a property, but they have a vision for what they want it to be. Obviously, they want money in the bank, but it's a prestigious asset to own.
I like how you say they want money in the bank, because there's a lot of owners out there, especially in luxury hotels, where it's more about ego than profitability.
Well, you know, it can go both ways. I've known ownership groups that, you know, it's just bottom line oriented,
Right.
and just show me the money. But that takes care of today. It doesn't take care of tomorrow. And when you're building something, whether it's a startup or it's a repositioning of a property like this one, you have to have a master plan and a vision. And as an operator, you and I can have our own, but if I don't understand the owners, I'm going to disappoint him. I have to show alignment with him. And, you know, in this particular circumstance, this was the answer for me to things that were maybe pushing me away from the industry, because I started out with Marriott. I spent 13 and a half years with them. As a kid, I grew up in that. And that gave me a good foundation for management practices and understanding the possibilities, understanding that basically every element of business exists under the roof of a full-service hotel. And for myself, I didn't want to be limited by possibilities, so I saw geographically I could move to Akron, Ohio, or Abu Dhabi and everywhere in between, and all the different classifications of hotels, elements of business under the roof. So I felt it was boundless in what I could do, and if you were creative and adaptable and intuitive, this was for me. So I enjoyed that, but as I grew, then I started to say, hey, I need to make more money, and I left Marriott and I went to work for Interstate for a period of time, a management company. And that was a unique experience, but then I went back to Hilton. So this is really my first foray with an independent property in the sense that directly working with the owner rather than an asset manager.
Oh, those are fun. I was one of those.
That's the tougher one, right?
One quick point. Interstate Hotels is the world's largest management company. The size of them is about the same size as the next 5 largest management companies combined. I just wanted people to understand that don't know it. Sorry, Anthony, please
It's
continue.
great to have a referee, isn't it? Yeah. But, so that was, I believe, an authentic answer. But I'm still not going to let you off the hook.
Please don't.
I'm going to ask you an example of where an owner asked you to do something that you thought was so out of alignment with the hotel and with the employees and with the vision of the hotel, where you really had to go in the timeout chair and figure out, how do I get my way without losing my job and without the owner getting upset?
Well, I think those circumstances were about a bottom line oriented demand. Let's cut this. Let's minimize this. And I always look at it like you have to realign a person's perspective. Ultimately, what do you want? We can do that today, but this is what's going to happen
So give me
later.
an example of where you've had to do that and how it worked out.
It could be something like, let's remove, why do we have to have an employee cafeteria? Let's remove that benefit. I don't want to pay for all of this. We don't build hotels now with them. They build hotels with lunchrooms. But when it is an existing benefit and it helps you in a market that is very transient, and it's a retention point. And a lot of hotel employees on the line level are living paycheck to paycheck. This may be the one good meal that they're having during the day, and if they become reliant on it, there's a way to run it more efficiency. So could we meet in the middle? Can I find ways to present this with a more efficient pro forma, if you will, so that we can reduce costs but understand the benefit that it means to the line staff for retention and what that means for us in service execution. Because you can build or renovate a great building, but you got to deliver on the service. We do that through people.
And the bottom line cost, because it costs so much money and time to replace somebody.
That's very interesting, because that leads into my next question. Well, one, I will agree with you, and the thing that I try to teach people every day of the year is don't ever take anything away from someone that you give. You give an employee a benefit, don't ever take it away unless you're giving them a different benefit that's even better than the benefit you took away. That's just terrible, number one. So leading into my other question, I'm going to say a word. Union.
Well, I spent about 20 years managing in union properties, and I'll be honest with you, a lot of people run from that. I embraced it because
Really?
I did, because listen, if you're going to work in a city, a major market, and certainly New York has a very strong union, and I spent 26 years working in New York, I thought, I can't run from it. I should run to it. It's a challenge, and it really helped me grow.
Yeah, and if you run away from it, Peter Boyle will just chase you down the block and knock you over.
You know what? I had a lot of respect for him. He was a
Me
very
too.
smart man,
Me
great
too.
negotiator. Certainly had conflicting priorities as hotel operators and what they were trying to accomplish. But there's a lot of good people that are union members, and a lot of good work gets done. And there's a lot of 5-star properties that are union. And if you can accomplish that there, you can accomplish that at the 3-star property where you can move it. But it taught me a different form of adaptable negotiating. That it was negotiating in the back, it was negotiating in the front, and really it's the art of manipulation. I love that word, and a lot of people think it has a negative connotation.
Oh, my God,
I don't think it's about taking advantage. I think it's about getting the result through people and making them feel good about it. And most of the time, if you do it well, they tell you about the success as if it was their idea. So I think I became a very good manipulator in that environment, and I think that helped me when I was in sales as a negotiator.
Right.
Because life's a negotiation, and in this business, I'm not working in a lighthouse, with a rag and a can of Windex, and that's all I do by myself is clean up the Fresnel lens. I have to work through people. So being able to build relationships, understand what their needs are, stay a couple steps ahead and anticipating, what they need out of it. You've got it's quid pro quo in life. So I loved working in union hotels. It sometimes feels like swimming against the current, but it's just an additional challenge to try to achieve.
Well, it sounds to me like it's the right tack to take, because if you have the unions established in the hotel, you're not going to walk in and get rid of them. So you might as well embrace the culture and figure out a game plan to do it instead of fighting something that you can't fight.
Yeah, not to imply it's a battle at all, but I mean, a great handbook for working in that is The Art of War.
Yeah, right. And it's not a battle, it's not a war, but at the same time, the priorities are different, and you need to recognize that the priorities are different when
you've got conflicting and competing priorities.
Well, one of the reasons I mentioned the word union was because you said something that's fascinated me throughout my career. I always felt that employees that work with me didn't need a union, but I've seen in environments where they absolutely needed a union. And you said something that really struck me. You said that why would we take the lunchroom away from our employees? This may be the only good meal they have all week, and some of them aren't making a lot of money. So now you're saying that to an owner. Now, to me, I can't understand how an owner would even ask the question of let's take the lunchroom away. I would say how to make the lunchroom bigger. So when they have someone like you in that position to negotiate that for them, they're good. When they don't, the employees get screwed, and they then lose their lunchroom. And then that kind of turns into they don't feel respected, the guests won't feel respected, and then the bottom line will suffer. So the unions play an incredibly important role in our city. And if it wasn't for them, and I saw it firsthand, because I've worked for independent owners my entire career. That's all I've worked for. And I've seen some great owners, and I've seen some owners where I've had to put my job on the line, okay, and physically, okay, close a door and say, I'm winning this one because you're going to have to fire me. I'm not even quitting over this. I'm not even going to quit over this. You're going to have to fire me over this because this is too important. And then one hotel had to do with medical benefits. We gave medical benefits to the front staff, but we didn't give medical benefits to the housekeepers, and that's against the law. And that just pissed me off. So when you have someone that's fighting for the employees, that's great. But when you don't, that's when unions are very, very important. I always say, and I took over a hotel in Midtown where I said, hey, it's not me against you or you against me. We're in this together. And people sometimes, and I've had my own concerns and problems with Peter Ward, who's the president of the union, but I give him so much respect in the sense of, look at a union contract today for a housekeeper or for a bartender or for a bar. They are making decent money. They are making a living wage. I'll say they're making a living wage. When I tell you a housekeeper at full pay is making almost $40 an hour, people say, oh my God, how do I become a housekeeper? I said, I'll get you a job as a housekeeper in a union shop making $4 with great benefits and a 401k and educational benefits and days off. I'll get you all of that. Then I'm going to give you a list and a key to go clean 18 rooms. Okay?
It's such a hard job.
And then you tell me if they're overpaid, So yes, I can see both sides of it from a hotel manager, from a hotel owner, but it does nothing but makes me excited when I see these housekeepers walking into hotels, union hotels, and I know they're making $4 an hour and they're getting great benefits and they're protected and they're getting taken care of because there are some really bad owners and general managers out there. On the other side of that, however, there are 3 big hotels in New York City right now in Times Square that are making more money than they've ever made, and they can't make rent because this contract is, it's hurtful for some of the hotels. And I don't blame the union. I'm like, hey man, good job. It's like, why did you negotiate that and if you couldn't afford it? And why do you own a big 1,800 room hotel when the best hotel that own in New York City is a 175 room, no food and beverage hotel in New York City? You make a hell of a lot of money no matter how much your money
because it was built in 1980.
right. But so I admire your answer, and I appreciate that. But there are a lot of general managers that are not like you, and they will be afraid to lose their job. They don't understand the art of negotiation, and they will give in to the room service demand. Into the lunchroom demand, and they don't see the long-term effect on the employees. So I admire that.
So, yeah, with every decision are 5 implications, and if you don't consider those ahead of time, I'm all about protect my schedule. My schedule is to move the business forward. If I'm dealing with that sort of minutia where we're bickering back and forth over little issues, how can I be up at the bridge of the ship? So when you make these rash decisions just because you're following a directive that isn't completely understood by perhaps the owner, you're remiss in not educating them or standing the ground like you have.
Yeah, and you said like these little decisions, and I always say the little decisions are the big decisions. You take a lunchroom away from hardworking employees, a place where they can, for a half hour, an hour, unwind, get a decent meal, even if they bring their own food in, watch some television, talk to their friends. You take that away from them, you've just put the first hole in your boat. You are going to take on water. It may not capsize, it may not sink tomorrow or a week from now or even a year from now, but you have just put the first hole in your boat. And that's what young general managers or young managers anywhere in any business across the world have to understand. That one little hole, if you don't seal that hole, it's going to get you. And the reason you've been successful is because you understand that my biggest priority sometimes is the smallest priority of the day, and people think I'm out of my mind. Why are you spending so much time? Why are we having meetings? I'll give you a perfect example. I took over the Algonquin, we renovated the hotel, and I drove everybody out of their friggin' mind. And I promised them when they opened, I'd give them a week without me. I said, you won't hear from me. I'll be in my office doing paperwork for the owners about the budgets and things. So I won't see you. You won't see me. And they all, literally gave me a standing ovation. They were like, thank God.
I feel like a cake was involved.
Yeah, there was a cake. No, there wasn't a cake, but there was a toilet paper cover involved. But that's a different story.
They then taped his door shut once he went in.
So a week later, I came down. I came into the hotel. I called everyone that was a supervisor above to the lobby. I said, we're going to have a test. I said, if you pass the test, I'm going to go away for a month. And you're not going to see me, and you're not going to hear from me. If you fail the test, my foot's going to be up everybody's butt for a long time because we're not going backwards. So with this, I pulled out a chair. I pulled out a table. And I said, I'm going to go underneath, and I'm going to see if there's any garbage, any peanuts, because we had a lot of peanuts because we were in the lobby of the Algonquin Hotel. We served peanuts. If there's any garbage underneath, are we vacuuming properly? Is there any dust? If I find what I think is a significant amount of dust or dirt or food, we're going to have a problem. I go underneath, I come up, and I have 2 handfuls of garbage and crap. Ugh. I put it on the table, and I walked away. Didn't say anything. I wasn't mad. I wasn't angry. I just said, I gave you a week. I told you what the standard was. I said how we're going to go forward, and you disappointed me, and you disappointed the team. I'm done. They got my point. I never had to mention it again.
That is a fantastic lesson because what you did is you showed them how to earn autonomy. No one likes to be managed.
Right.
Now, I shut down if I'm getting managed, so I strive to earn trust and to build autonomy. But for the line staff, that's a fantastic lesson because they realize, you know what, that's how we maintain autonomy with the GM, staying on top of these things and keeping them paramount in our mind.
Right, because the last thing I want to do is manage. The thing I want to do is I want to go to the gym. I want to go home at 5 o'clock. I want to take my kids to different things, and I want to be off on weekends, and I want to have a nice house, on the Jersey Shore, and I don't want to work. So I'm trying to get myself into an early retirement and not work. The only way I can really do that is to do the right thing all the time when I am working. And the only way to do that is to jeopardize my vulnerability, to put myself on the line with the employees. Because if I did come up with nothing, I would have to walk away for a month and literally not have meetings, have my assistant general manager, my supervisors, my team run the hotel for a month. So I was putting a lot on the line by saying, and I would literally, and everybody knows my personality, if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. I would have walked away for a month. So I was putting myself on the line okay, to have trust in them that for a month you're going to run a brand new hotel and I'm going to be in my office, and every time I came out, you can make fun of me because we had that good relationship. They can make fun of me and say, oh, here he is. He went against his word, and they can make fun of me. And I was really upset on one hand. On the other hand, I was like, okay, I get to work again. I get to run the hotel. But it was a really great lesson, and we never again, ever had a problem. About maybe 6 months later, I pulled out the chairs with nobody looking, and I knew it would be clean, and it was. And that lesson went through that hotel like disease.
So let me ask you, Grady, what would you say your management style is like, and how do you get folks to perform in the way that Anthony has achieved at places like the Algonquin Plaza and other places he's been?
A little differently, but it is by virtue of adhering to the metaphor, speed of the captain, speed of the ship.
Right.
So I want to set a pace. I don't want to have long discussions. I have a poster on the wall behind my chair that says deeds, not dialogue. So if we say we're going to do something...
So not the cat hang in there?
No cat. No, I'm a dog person anyway.
Dogs playing poker, maybe? I was thinking about classic artwork that would work well in the hotel environment.
That one might not be supposed to. But people remember when they come in. So when we have discussions, it's all about, if we said we're going to do it, let's honor our commitment. Let's honor our team's commitment. And then I have to walk around. So, that old adage of, don't delegate what you're not going to follow up on. Mm-hmm. Just as you did, you went back and checked all of that stuff. I don't say anything. That's why I believe in deeds, not dialogue. I personally don't talk about things that I'm not going to get to. No good intentions. This is an action-oriented environment. If we say we're going to do it, it has to happen. So when I talk about something and I'm open to a better way to do it, I don't want it to be top-down driven. I have a suggestion. How do we achieve it? They don't have an idea. We're going to go with what I say unless they suggest something else. And then to me, everybody's a strategic partner. I tell everybody, you're my business partner in that area, and I'm your business partner. I'll help remove obstacles and enable you. But if we say we're going to do it, I'm going to go and check it. So the joke around here is, how do you remember all of this stuff? Because I go and I write it down.
But you don't let them see you write it down.
I only have one calendar. I learned a long time ago, sticky notes aren't the answer, and there's only one clock. So I put everything on my business calendar. Pick up the kid, go to the dentist, go check to see if they cleaned the peanuts out from under the chair, and you're shaping habits. Sometimes you have to undo the habits, and when you inherit a hotel, you have to undo those habits before you rewire the new ones. But they're looking to you to set the pace, and they're looking to you to follow up on it. They want leadership.
And what I love about what you just said and why I love the hotel business, and I love general managers, is everything you said could be transferred to every single business. Whether you're a Little League coach, whether you're a CEO of a company, whether you're a supervisor in charge of a housekeeping department, everything you just said translates to business, because you're not a great hotel general manager. You're a great leader and a great manager. And that's why I love the hotel business, because we manage everything. We manage design, we manage construction, we manage housekeeping, we manage pools, spas, restaurants, bars, roofing. You name one thing, any career, you will find it in a hotel. So if you don't understand that this business, more than any business, is driven by people and by you getting in the way when you need to, and sometimes being like the biggest obstacle in everybody's way, and sometimes being the person that's just getting out of the way and running behind everyone. If you don't understand that, you're in trouble. So let's get to the moment you understood that. Because when I was coming up, I was insecure. Everybody growing up until
Me too.
Right, until you get some good wins under your belt. So tell me the moment, the insecure moment where you were basically leading or managing by fear or insecurity that maybe started to shift your thinking. Was there any one moment?
I think it was a period of time where I was inhibited. I was young when I became a manager, when I became a department head, and you're managing people that have been in those positions for decades. I had when I worked at the Waldorf Astoria, my first
Eric
job.
Long.
My first job was director of beverage, and I thought that they had this inefficient way of checking in the bars at the end of a banquet, and I made a suggestion to them, something that was efficient, easier for them, and this gentleman said to me, "We're not going to do that." And I said, why not? This is going to be easier for you. You're going to get out earlier. And he said, you're manager number 46. And I thought to myself, I guess that was the moment when I realized it's such a transient business in hotel management. Everybody wants to work a year or two and get promoted or transfer somewhere else. How do you earn the respect of the staff if you're not going to understand what they go through and start to remove some obstacles? You don't have to do their job for them, but I learned at that point, well, show me. And I remember that all the people that I was impressed with, that I reported to, they had a curiosity, and they always said, why? Or let's go see, show me how that works. So I adopted that, and this gentleman, Anthony, who had been working there for 57 years, started to show me why his thinking was this. Once that happened, he realized I was a listener, and I earned a little trust, and then he listened to me a little bit, and then a little bit more. Ultimately, we always did it Anthony's way, but Anthony did retire, so we got things going. But being curious and understanding, if I don't understand what they go through, I mean, why should they listen to me? So you have to learn a little bit about everything in this hotel. I mean, you're going to find me in the winter snow plowing in an F-250 out front.
Well, that just
once
sounds
in
fun.
a while.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Once in a while. Not for 8 hours.
Right. All right. So then I've got a question on this whole curiosity thing that I think is important. Is curiosity, in your opinion, something that we're born with, or is it something that can be learned over time? Because if you don't have that curiosity factor, then it sounds like you can't really achieve status in the hospitality industry through being a general manager.
I think it's there, but I think because of inhibitions, particularly when you're, in your 20s or your 30s, you're afraid to ask. You're afraid to show that you don't know. Now I do it all day long because my curiosity keeps growing and growing. I want to understand. I want to understand what's going on with the boiler holding tanks, and we'll go down and look at that. So if I get a purchase order for $5,000, I can't it'd be fiscally irresponsible to say yes to it when I don't understand how it works. I can't sign a check for something when I don't know, so I have to go and understand and get a basic knowledge. So I love asking how and why. Look, I can't make a rusty nail, so there's a great bartender who can make that, and I can't make a Bordelaise sauce, but I get the essence of it. But I want to understand. So I go behind the line and check it out. But, it's an office job, too, and I understand, they want you buttoned up. They expect their general manager to look a certain way. They don't want to see me picking things up and carrying things. But when you have to do it and you do that, I think it wins some credibility. And I think you build up your credibility tank with people as well by being curious.
The moment you said about that gentleman, Anthony, who was there for over 50 years, and he said, you're manager number 46, and I've been in that situation, there's a moment where you can challenge that and say, well, I don't care if I'm number 73, you're going to do it this way, and that's the way it's going to be. Or you're going to realize it's time to be humble.
That's what happened. My first instinct, as I think anyone's would be, my reflex was, I'm annoyed over this. But then I laughed, and I thought, you know what? This guy's been doing it. This is his craft for over 5 decades. It's his place. I have to integrate myself into it. And you know what? Humility is the key, especially when you work in a nice hotel. Don't hoteliers get a little caught up in the pretense of it, and they start to think they are it? I mean, I have a hard time going to industry affairs just because of the pomp and circumstance. It's a service business. I'm here to serve. It takes a degree of humility, and I'm a steward of the business. I'm not making $1 million a year rolling up here with the Bentley. Right. That's not me. And I shouldn't carry out that pretense with the staff. I should know the staff's names. I should have general understanding of their circumstance, their interests. Hey, did you go blue fishing this weekend? How'd you do? It's momentary relationship building. But that's humility, even when I don't feel like it.
I think that perfectly tied knot is anything but humility. So I don't know if I'm getting that from you. But seriously, though, a question for both of you that I have is, how do you know in the moment if it's a time for that humility or a time where you have to be the leader and make a demand or a request?
Well, it depends where you are in your life, in your career, in your person, right? The moment we were talking about, because I had a similar moment, and I think we're relating to it because that wasn't about the work and that wasn't about the person that's telling me that. In my opinion, my moment was that's about me. I have a choice right this second. The gun's pointed right at my face, and it's saying either you're going to be a leader or you're going to act like a leader. Okay, acting like a leader and being a leader are two different things. Because when you act like a leader and you turn around, there's nobody there. You're acting like a leader, but there's nobody around you. A leader turns around, there's people behind them, but you don't call yourself a leader. So that's the moment where you're punching the face and going, how am I going to handle this? And 90% of the people handle it the wrong way, and 10% of the people go in their little ball and go, I'm gonna learn from this guy, because at the end of the day, he's right. You are going to leave and you are going to make more money. So with that said, can you be curious without being humble?
Yeah, I think you can.
How?
I just don't think you have to be pretentious. I think you could just be plainly curious. It doesn't mean it has to be a humbling experience. I think I've been curious my whole life, but I don't necessarily think I've been humble or not humble. I think they're mutually exclusive things. You're shaking your head no, you think I'm crazy.
I think because maybe, Anthony, you and I are from this area.
And I'm not.
And you got to be pretty street savvy. You're dealing with people that are looking at you and they're measuring you the moment they lay eyes on you. All of your staff. Right now, there's someone talking about things they don't like about Grady in this hotel and things they might admire, hopefully. But they size you up. So they have to think of you as being genuine and true to yourself. And that doesn't happen until you start to become comfortable, which is not something you have to wait for young people. You know, take stock in what you know. Being humble is being a little vulnerable, is reaching out for some trust by giving some trust. But, you know, when you talk about leadership, I always think of leadership in terms of you can't be a leader without followers. And being a follower, that's a voluntary act. So people will not volunteer to follow you as a leader unless they're inspired by you. But they have to believe in you and see you as genuine and real.
But you have to believe in getting back to the question of, can you be curious and not be humble? And I really don't think you can in a real way, to your point where you're saying that you have to, people are sizing you up and they're going to see through the crap, right? So you're being curious, asking them questions to get the answer that you want to do your job. If you do that in a way that's not humble, they're going to size you up and they're going to crucify you down the road. I'll give you an example. I have a friend of mine who's our lead cameraman on our show, John Kelleran. And I've traveled 26 or something countries with the man. And I always thought I was curious. And I'm a humble person. And I liked when I go to other people's cultures to really understand them. But I wasn't doing it in a real way, in an authentic way. I was doing it in a way of, I wanted to get something from you so I have great stories and I have great education, but I don't really care about you. I just want to get your stories. So was I curious? 100%. John Kelleran taught me, just by watching him, when he goes into a country, he is completely humbled and appreciative. If somebody gives him a bowl of rice or somebody allows him into his or her home, he's like, thank you so much. And he's not there to get an education to learn so he can bring it back so he can impress his friends. He is there to show you that we're all the same people, and I'm going to bring you some of my American information and style to you, but I am so humbled by the information you're giving me and you're appreciative of your customs. And I learned that through travel and learned that through him. So I will challenge anyone to say that you can be truly curious if you're that humbled, because if you're curious to just learn and walk away, you're not listening. If you're humble and you're truly listening and appreciating that person's point of view, you're going to learn more and you're going to get more out of it. And that's true curiosity. You know, whereas I felt like a fraud. I remember when I went to Vietnam. It was just maybe 10 months ago. We went to Vietnam and I'm watching this guy really inundate himself. And I was just like, okay, what, really? That's what you do? Oh, thank you very much. And walk away so I can go to my air-conditioned house or my air-conditioned hotel suite. And he was going and hanging out and you know, staying in a dirty bed down in Vietnam somewhere. And he really wanted to get the feeling of Vietnam. So not to go off on a tangent, but true leadership, true curiosity, true improvement comes when you feel vulnerable to the person you're leading. That you feel just as vulnerable to them as they do to you, because you as the leader with the nice suit, the nice car, the nice house on the Jersey Shore, with the nice apartment, they think you have the world by the balls. And when you're showing that you're just as concerned and just as nervous about their situation, that's leadership, that's authenticity, that's when you get to move the ball. So I said I'm not taking a breath because I don't want you to talk. No, just kidding. I just
How do we shut his microphone
I know,
off?
right? I did 10 minutes ago. Don't worry. We're
No.
just
I see you have a bite mark in your hand. Did you try to take it away from him?
So I guess I'm not humble or curious. No, but you did something that's interesting. I said Eric Long, and you held up your fist. Now,
My therapist says I can't speak about those years. It was 6.5.
okay, well, Eric Long is a dear friend of mine. I went to his going away party. And I was the only non-employee in the room because I told him 20 years ago, if you get retired and I'm not in the room, I'm going to hunt you down and kill you. But then I went to when he was inducted. Are you in the Waldorf Alumni Club or whatever it's called?
No, not yet.
Okay, so they were introducing him
Yeah.
and John Doherty. And you know John, right? The
Very
exec-
well. John
Okay.
used to live in Garden City, as a matter of fact.
So he was the executive chef there. So I'll never forget this as long as I live. So anybody that understands doesn't understand who Eric Long is. Eric Long was the general manager of the Waldorf Astoria for 20 years and recently retired, maybe 5 years ago, and was true. And from my perspective, one of the greatest leaders of our industry. But anyone that's ever worked for him for more than 30 seconds has some bumps and bruises along the way. So John Doherty was the youngest executive chef in the history of the Waldorf Astoria. He was 27 years old.
Yep, 27.
When he became executive chef. So they both retired from the Waldorf. John went on to open his own restaurant, and Eric Long went on to play golf in Arizona. So they're both being inducted to the Waldorf Hall of Fame or
Alumni Association.
Alumni Association, and they're on stage. So John Doherty goes first. And he says his speech, and then he's supposed to introduce or say something about Eric Long. So when he came back on stage and said, okay, I'm supposed to say a few words about Eric Long. And this sums up Eric Long's leadership style. John Doherty looks at Eric Long and goes, to sum up my X amount of years working with you, it was hard. And he walks off the stage. True story.
That is a true story. I have friends that were there, and I'm friends with John.
Right, and it was hard. But you know what? But the Waldorf Astoria, they used to, when I worked at the Plaza Hotel, they called it the Plaza Zoo. And the Waldorf Astoria, when I worked at the Plaza Hotel, was also a crazy zoo, and it was nowhere. Eric Long,
Waldorf Hysteria.
right, right. Okay, Plaza Zoo, Waldorf Astoria. I didn't know that. But Eric Long, after 20 years, I truly feel that he was influential in building that brand to what it is today.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. No, Eric loved the hotel. He used to say, I don't want to work with anybody who doesn't love the Waldorf Astoria. And he did. And he had a vision for it, and he dedicated every minute of the day. And he never, you talk about taking time off, he never took time off. You know, before computers, he used to mail in, when he'd go on vacation, he'd mail back cassette tapes of his thoughts about things he wanted people working on by the time he got back. And when he came back from vacation, before he went to his residence, he went right to the office. Once in a while, I'd have a day off on the weekend. I was the food and beverage director.
Oh, my God.
I remember I made a picture of margaritas. I'm headed to the patio to see my wife, and the phone rings, and it's Eric Long. So naturally, I'm going to take the call. I'm standing there in the garage with a picture of margaritas, my wife waiting on the patio for an hour and 15 minutes. They were watery, but they tasted good, and God, did I need a drink after that call.
But you know what's interesting? When you said food and beverage director Waldorf Astoria, and I said, oh, my God, okay, you can be a pilot with nuclear weapons, or you can be the food and beverage director of the Waldorf Astoria under Eric Long. I think there's less stress being in an airplane with a nuclear weapon tied to your belt than to be the food and beverage director of the Waldorf
Well, that's
Astoria.
why I made the joke. My therapist says I can't talk about it anymore. I was the longest running food and beverage director with him. It was 5 years. And wow, I mean, I met with Eric 7 times a day at least. At one point, I had to say to him, you know, I don't know what's going on because I'm with you all day.
Right.
You know, it was a big, big business. You know,
And you said the word. It's a business. He used to say to me, Anthony, my boy, it's a big business, Anthony, my boy. You have to really be involved in this because it's a big business. And I think when it closed its doors for the renovation, it was generating $450 million a year.
Exactly. We were doing 120 in food and beverage.
Wow, that is an unbelievable amount of money that was coming
So
through those doors.
one
good thing they closed it.
in one given day, I think we were having breakfast in Bull and Bear because we got together twice a year, and I'll tell you some funny stories later. But we're in the Bull and Bear, and he goes, Anthony, my boy, guess how many conferences I have right now going on? And I don't know. I said some stupid number like 11. How many conferences in one day can you have in the Waldorf Astoria?
You could have probably 80 conferences with all the space, if you had a lot of small conferences. But, it wasn't unusual in the evening. You'd have 3 restaurants. One's doing 220, the other's doing 230, the other's doing 180. Then they've got their private rooms. You got 3 lounges going. You got the ballroom with 2,500 in it.
Now I know why your tie is so perfect and your shirt's so perfect, and you look like you work with Eric Long, because there's no one sharper than Eric Long.
Very sharp dressed guy. It's funny,
He still has a twitch, by the way.
I bet he does.
You.
I hope I caused it.
No, you have the twitch because Eric Long. No, just.
Yeah,
what are you going to say?
What I was going to say is that we've got to start wrapping up because we have one of those famous hard stops that we have to take that the Hollywood Glitterati always have. So we do need to move on. I hate that we have to wrap up this show. It's going so great. So I'm curious for you to tell us something that we don't know.
Something you don't know.
That's right, Grady.
I'm going to make it about the Garden City Hotel.
Excellent. I love
it
that.
or not.
No, we should definitely bring it back to that.
Well, I think what it is, I think he stole my thunder a bit with David Burke thing, but this is what's interesting about David Burke being at the Garden City Hotel. And he opened 3 venues, oversees all of our catering. We are opening up sort of an underground bar in the loading dock area, and you're going to get to it. If you're a hotel guest, by golf cart, we're going to drive you around. But David and I have come up with a pretty cool concept for an underground, not like a speakeasy, something that's a real departure from a luxury hotel. So a real crunchy underground. You get to enter from the loading dock, right by the boilers, go up a secret staircase. So look forward to that. But I think, I know you're meeting with him in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You are going to have a blast because he's a lot of fun.
Are you going to be requiring tattoos and piercings to get into this location?
Funny you mention that. It's a Sideline LLC I just opened up. So I'll be by the entrance. They're henna tattoos, so they'll wear off and you can put whatever you want on.
Excellent. Anthony, I'd love for you to tell me something I don't know.
You don't know that I'm going to be his first guest and he's never getting rid of me.
Right.
And that he's probably going to walk out on the check.
All right.
There's going to be a check? There's going to be a check?
I'm thinking when you're ready to open that space, we come back, we do a show from there.
Sounds good.
And I will personally do nothing but drink. He'll talk, I'll drink. And it'll be a perfect show.
Excellent. And I know Anthony is dying to ask me that question and tell me something I don't know. So, Anthony, I'm going to tell both of you guys something you don't know about me. I know I live on Long Island, and I know I'm supposed to love fishing. You even made a fishing reference here, and I've tried my whole life. I really want to love fishing, but I don't. It seems so relaxing and fun, but it's anything but that for me. I can't stand getting up at like 4 a.m. to go and have breakfast before I get to the boat, and then going around. Then I get all seasick, and then I got the pressure of having to catch a big fish, which I never do. They always eat the freaking bait off of it, and I never catch anything. Then I got to come home with empty hands and tell everyone I don't have anything. It's just too much for me. I'd rather just go to the fish store. That's something you guys now know about me. Grady, thanks so much for being here today.
My pleasure. This was a lot of fun, guys. Let's do it again.
It was an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to do this again, and I had so much fun just listening and watching these two pros talk today. And if you want to find us on Instagram, find us on Twitter, find us on Facebook. You can find us at Checking In with Anthony and Glenn on the Instagram, on the Facebook page, all of that kind of stuff. You can also find me personally at novacancynews.com, at the No Vacancy News page on Facebook. And Anthony, how can we find you?
You can find me at 42nd and 9th. I'm there at 8 o'clock.
He's doing great tricks, only $50 a shot. You're going to absolutely love it when you check in.
Wait a second.
Anthony.
Wait, he doesn't have a cowboy hat on and a diaper, does he? You're not taking that gig over, are you?
No, I wish I made his money.
Grady, that's his outfit to the opening day of your new Not Speakeasy.
I wish I made his money.
We're going to push that back then.
Yeah, so for Grady, Anthony, and myself, Glenn, thanks for checking in.
It's Checking In with Anthony and Glenn, teaching you to be the hotelier that you wanna be. It's Checking In with Anthony